Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the Essential Zodiac Podcast. I'm your host, Cynthia McNulty.
And I'm Audrey Fannin.
Thank you all for listening out there. We really appreciate it. Today, we are going to be talking about the full moon in Aquarius, which in fact occurs today. So while you're listening to the podcast, you'll be feeling the full moon energy. But first, I have a question for you guys out there. How did you all fare on my little challenge of getting out of your comfort zone for the Leo new moon? We had talked about taking chances and, doing something that you were a little scared of, getting out of your comfort zone. If you feel like sharing, you could post it on Essential Zodiac's Facebook, or if you want to keep it private but you want to tell me about it, you can email me at the podcast email here, which is ezpodcast@yahoo.com. So I'd be interested if you guys want to share. To keep in mind, too, and I've been remiss in doing this, but I'm going to be starting a private Facebook group for the listeners out there. It could be private and you could share. There'll definitely be rules and regulations about, not divulging people's business, things like that. I'm still working on that, but I will definitely let you all know when that is up and ready, and we can maybe start our own little community. Oh, and I hope you enjoyed our very special episode with Sky, Living an Energetic Life. I hope you wandered over to her webpage and looked at all the wonderful things she has to offer. You won't be disappointed at all. So on to the full moon in Aquarius. So the full moon occurs when the moon is directly opposite the sun in the sun's companion sign, if you would. So our example today is we have the sun in Leo, and the opposite sign in the zodiac is Aquarius. The moon is directly opposite the sun and in Aquarius. So new moons are always in the same sun sign, and full moons are always in the opposite sign. Now, Aquarius is a fixed sign. That means it's stable and it continues the work. It continues the energy that was started by the cardinal signs. Now, Leo and Aquarius are both fixed signs. So I will say that this moon energy will be tenacious. It's also very creative. So that's the positive aspect here. Aquarian energy is very revolutionary. They like to do things differently, to use a cliche, they think outside the box. They're very innovative people. So this is a perfect moon to see how you could break free from some old habits or rigid ideas and look at things from a new perspective. Because we all know that there are things about ourselves that we can improve upon, make our thoughts and deeds, more open and inclusive. And definitely Aquarian energy can help you do that. Aquarian energy is also very much centered on freedom. Aquarians march to their own drummer. They like to do things their own way. They're also very happy with their own company. They don't need a lot of people around them. It's not that they're antisocial. They're very social. In fact, they are very much a humanitarian sign. They like to work for the greater good. Where Libra, for example, wants everybody to be happy and equal, Aquarius knows that that's not realistic all the time. And so what we have to do is search for the solution that is for the greater good and not just the individual. So this full moon may inspire us to shift and let go of things that make us feel stuck or trapped. So ask yourself these questions. How can I bring more lightness and ease into my life? Where are you having some burdens? Where do you feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders? Another question is, what do I need to let go of in order to achieve the above? So, all right, what are we feeling? What are we holding on to that is really making us overburdened, frustrated, unhappy, overworked? And we need to let this go. So the coupling of the sun in Leo and the full moon in Aquarius allows us to see the difference between satisfying ourselves and collaborating with others. Like I had said, Aquarius is a very humanitarian, the good of the community sign. So this energy reminds us that we're all part of something larger than ourselves. While we all want independence to be happy, we have to extend that grace to others. Whether we agree with their happiness or not is not up for debate. You get to be happy and they get to be happy in their own way. You don't even have to understand it. You just have to leave them in peace to let them live their lives is basically what you need to do.
It's not a zero-sum game.
Right, exactly. Thank you, Audrey. That was perfect. Yes. So this full moon illuminates our feelings, attitudes, and circumstances that are already in existence. None of the moons, none of the energy creates stuff out of nowhere. It's already there. We're bringing it to you and making it more prominent. This is a time of awakening to the need for others or to answer our humanitarian impulses. If you've been cosmically tapped on the shoulder about maybe looking into a charity or a cause or whatever, that is this Aquarius full moon pushing you into action. So we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, I'll have some tips to embrace this full moon energy.
Visit EssentialZodiac.com to subscribe to Cindy's monthly Skywatch Journal. While you're there, consider becoming a patron of this podcast. You'll get early access to that newsletter, plus sneak peeks about new episodes and special topics, and even a private discussion group. Just click on the red Become a Patron link on the website for details. Now back to you, Cindy.
Thanks, Audrey. Okay, so this lunation connects with Saturn and squares Uranus, and it suggests some stop-and-go energy connected to our realizations and our epiphanies. The full moon is square with Uranus, which is Aquarius's ruler, and this moon is also aligned with Saturn, which is also in Aquarius.
So let me ask you,
Yes.
We haven't really talked about some terminologies for a while, so could you explain what you mean when you use the term square in astrology?
Sure. A square is what we call an aspect, and an aspect is how the planets line up with each other in the sky. If they're very close together, we call it a conjunction. And there are mathematical formulas that go along with this. So not to bore you out there with the formula. I mean, you could Google the formula, but another aspect is a square. And a square usually means a challenge. If you think about a square, a circle is round and flowing. A square has pointy sides and, it keeps things in. So squares between any of the planets are going to make that energy challenging. In this case, Saturn, Uranus, and the moon are in an aspect that is complicated and kind of stressful. That's the stop and go energy that I was talking about. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention last year, we've had a lot of upheaval with the Saturn square Uranus combination. It's not really back in full force as it was, but it's still kind of hanging around. But there is still going on a challenge to the status quo energy with all of this. And, you can see it in the news. There has been a lot of changes, a lot of upheavals. All sorts of legislation is out there, good and bad. So that's all a change coming. That's all a change to the status quo. So be smart about it. When you come across this energy, take a beat, think about it. It's presented there, but it doesn't necessarily mean if it's to your detriment, you have to do something about it. You can lay low and let it pass. But now here are some ways that you can connect with the full moon energy. And the full moon energy will be around for about 2 weeks until our next new moon. So activate your activism. And Lord knows there are many, many issues facing us as a collective. I know it could seem daunting because there's so much going on. Pick one, maybe two, that you feel very strongly about and that you can work with. Maybe, like myself, your marching days are over, but maybe you can contribute a small monthly donation. And, just with charities, every little bit counts. So don't feel like it has to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. They could work with whatever you send them.
And donate. Think about donating your time or your skills,
exactly.
Write for their newsletter or their website or
exactly. That's,
things like that.
Wonderful point, Audrey. If you have any skills in web design or newsletter or even calling for donations on the telephone, get in touch with charities. They'll put you to work. They'll figure out, they'll figure out something for you to do. Embrace belonging, but without necessarily fitting in. A unified effort doesn't require uniform behavior. Aquarius has eccentric energy. It celebrates the individual and togetherness simultaneously. So you do you, and have the grace to let others do them. Very simple. Let it be. What are you holding on to, and how is that holding you back? What excuses are you making for not doing something? This moon, this open, energetic moon, wants you to free your mind to that way of thinking. Open your mind and figure out solutions. And then sometimes we just have to let it go and move on. Build your team, okay? The communal Aquarius moon is an excellent time to gather your peeps, your tribe, and put your dream team to work. In the immortal words of John Lennon, who had an Aquarius moon, by the way, you'll get by with a little help from your friends.
And I can't help but jump in there.
Sure.
Because Sgt. Pepper's is one of those albums that I would put on our turntable as a kid and play.
You're dating yourself, Audrey.
Over and over and over again. So I did look that up, and so actually Paul came up with that line. And, he and John worked those songs together. They really fleshed out those lyrics. So, if you look at any Beatles album, they're almost all Lennon-McCartney songs.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Yeah.
See, look at that. Look what all you learn here at the Essential Podium podcast here. I mean, thank you for that. I love a bit of trivia. But yeah, John Lennon had an Aquarius Moon, which probably explains a lot of his behavior too. I have an Aquarius Moon, and I'm no John Lennon, but I know how I struggle with the dark side, shall we say. But he certainly wrote brilliant songs. So thank you,
sure did.
Audrey. I appreciate you jumping in with that. Well, that's a wrap, my friends. Thank you again for all your support and attention. Our next episode will be on the new moon in Virgo, and that will air on the 26th of August. And remember, with astrology, you can chart your life's course.
You can find the Essential Zodiac podcast on your favorite podcast sites, and also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We hope you'll follow, like, and share our podcast with your friends. If you have a question for Cindy or a suggestion for an astrology topic you'd like to hear her discuss, send an email to ezpodcast@yahoo.com. The Essential Zodiac podcast is produced at Muddy Creek Studios near Winston-Salem, North Carolina.